Welcome to our Market of the Moment update for the week of April 4th, 2022. Got Chris Madrid in the house. What's up, Chris?
Hey, how's it going, man?
Hey.
You know what I'm missing is our morning jams leading into the call. We need to get on that.
Oh, get some music going?
I mean,
We'll do that. We can do that for next week.
yeah, we'll work on that.
I have a playlist worked out for next week.
Nice.
All right. So Market of the Moment update, week of April 4th. Streaming this on Facebook Live today, two partners. So anyway, let's get into our mortgage rates.
Hey man, mortgage rates are up, right? Like we've been expecting. Here's the silver lining in all of this is you have to be working with someone that is watching this on a daily basis, right? We had a little bit of a dip last week and we were able to capitalize on that. Got several customers of ours locked in for 120 days, 180 days if they're doing new construction, right? So working with someone that is keeping a very close eye, like I do, is massive, right? That's a difference of you getting locked in at 4.8 or 5.2 like we are this week, right? And again, we are seeing those swings from 1 week to the next, from every few days to the next, it seems like. So the average right now on mortgage rates, we're still seeing probably 5 to 5.2 is what what you're looking at on average. And again, last week we were probably 4.7 to 4.9. So it's but again, it's one of those things where we're seeing the upticks, we're seeing the downticks, right? So again, you just have to be ready to move, right? And when we say, hey, it's a good time to lock in, it's probably a good time to lock in. I had this is a scenario yesterday. I've been working with this family for the last month. When rates were at 3.5%, I recommended, hey, we probably want to go ahead and get locked in. And then when they jumped to 3.99, I said, hey, rates are going to start to move. We need to get something locked in. Well, they felt like we're just going to let it ride, see what happens with mortgage rates, and we locked in yesterday at 5.025 on a 30-year fixed.
Wow.
So again, it's just one of those things where I follow this stuff on a daily basis, right? We know that this next or this week we're going to get, I think the CPP numbers are coming out, or the CPI numbers are coming out, which is the consumer price index. And then next week, the producer price index is coming out as well. And these are all, kind of core items related to, obviously to inflation. And we know that right now, inflation is just such a huge component on interest rates. And that's, essentially what's kind of pushing rates up. We also heard earlier this week that the Fed has now given some indication on what they're going to start doing related to mortgage-backed securities, right? So over the last 15 years or so, the Fed has been purchasing mortgage-backed securities, which has really helped kind of keep interest rates low. And obviously we saw the crazy low levels last year of where where mortgage rates had got last year. Now they have basically indicated, hey, we're going to start unraveling that balance sheet, like some $90 billion, right? And that may be 30 billion here, 30 billion there, but again, over the next few months, we should start to see them unraveling that. So that is giving us, obviously some caution as well, because if there's, if those securities go, either get sold or are off their balance sheet, well, then we may start to see rates tick a little bit higher. So those are some things that we're on the lookout for. And trends, I think the overall consensus and trends is that rates are going to continue to go up, right? There may be some light next year, right? We may hit a slight recession end of this year, early next year, right? Which after a recession, rates do come back down. So worst case scenario, you get into 5% now, right? Our recommendation is pay little, little to no points. And by little, I mean maybe 1 point, right? If that can get you a quarter or 3/8 or something decrease in interest rate. I'm seeing lenders out there doing, quoting 4.25%, 4%, and they're trying to charge people 3 and 4 points, right? That's crazy, because again, we based on where the trends are, we feel like you'll be able to refinance next year, back in the threes with little to no points. So paying a ton of points right now is just not, it's just not a good idea.
Not wise financial advice.
Well, do what we can.
All right.
What's our next one?
Well, last week we touched on, the affordability issue. And this week I wanted to follow up on that with maybe something.
Kind of wonderful. There it is.
So we talked affordability last year, and if you had, this is actually taking the 2021 numbers to 2022. We're getting ready to look at 2019 leading up to 2021. That even brought about, this first bit of appreciation. So
yeah,
last week we talked, and we ran these numbers that if you had waited between 2021 to 2022, it basically cost you nearly $250,000 over the course of that 30-year loan for waiting those 365 days to make that purchase. So anybody purchasing in 2021 definitely got ahead of the curve. But yeah, yesterday or earlier in the week, we had some numbers come in. And I want to make sure camera's not in front of those. So yeah, here is some sales price appreciations for our area over here to the left. Hopefully you can see it on camera. We've got Addison, Allen, Carrollton, all of our major cities, in Dallas, Fort Worth, Callan, Denton County. So I just kind of broke it down over here on the right. I've got what the average sales price in 2021 was in these particular cities, and what that increase was over the course of those 2 years, from 2019 to 2021. So, looking at these, Frisco average price went from up to 642,035, a 35% increase. Denton County up to 358.67, a nearly 30% increase. Plano up to 514, 28.3% increase. Prosper just over 700 and a 37%. And as you can see, all of our Collin, Denton counties getting well over 30%. Salina up 40%.
40%. Yeah, that's massive.
Addison crazily 53.7%. And let me move.
Fairview, a whopping 50%. Hey, one of the things, obviously that I wanted to kind of throw out there. So looking at these numbers, right, we noticed that from the last slide, we saw an average appreciation, right, from 20 to 20, or from 21. Hold on, what's that number? We saw an average appreciation of like 18%, right, like year over year.
Yeah.
Looking at, obviously these numbers, I mean, we're seeing 53, all the way up to 53% down to, like, our lowest is 19, I think, if I'm looking at this correctly. So again, the national average was 18%, but in DFW, right, in North Texas, we're seeing 19.8, which is almost 20%, all the way up to 53, almost 54. So, like, again, the big components is that, we keep hearing talks. I think there was an article that came out, this morning, on CNBC, citing that according to Redfin, 12% of homes for sale had a price drop in March, right? And it's all these, we're kind of hearing these, scare tactics, the fear mongering, whatever you want to call it, that we're in a housing bubble. And Again, we've talked about it before, but I think it warrants keeping this at the forefront of everyone's mind, is that this is the last thing from a housing bubble, right?
Yeah.
The homes that are out there and available are not enough to support the amount of people that are purchasing homes, and that's essentially the difference. Plus, back in the early 2000s, builders were building an insanely amount of homes. Yeah,
Mhm.
just a huge amount, right? There was months of surplus, like six months plus surplus on the market. We're still less than 30 days. And I don't know if people realize that they're, at the end of the day, it's very simple. There are not enough homes for the amount of people, for the demand, the amount of people that are looking to purchase them right now, right? So we are not even close to being in a housing bubble. And then at the end of the day, when these numbers come out, like again, Redfin had posted that 12% of homes last month, right, in the month of March, had a price drop. Well, that's not news, right? We saw last year, which last year, 2021, was one of the hottest, housing markets, and last year we saw 9% decrease of listings, right? So all that means is that people, real estate agents, whatever it was, listed too high, right? The sellers wanted them to list for a specific amount, and they had to do it. There was no activity, and they had to do a price drop, right? It's not like earth-shattering information. It's simply the fact that homeowners got greedy, for lack of better words, listed too high, right? And now they had to drop in order to sell. That's very, very, plain and simple. So, man, we keep talking about it, but I keep hearing about it. So I feel like we just need to keep putting that information out there.
Definitely.
You agree with that?
Yeah, for sure. I think that's obviously Redfin's got a national number there. Um, After we get off here, I'm going to try to see if I can figure out what that DFW number might be and you might be able to figure it out while I'm talking. But I'm sure our price decreases is lower than that. I think probably markets like the East Coast and some of these places where people were trying to leave, houses were probably priced at where they were selling. And when people are leaving an area, obviously, the market's not going to be hot and you're going to have some drops. And like you said, a 9 to 12%, a 3% difference. I think there's a lot of different variables that can go into that versus it being directly related to the housing market. So, and on the positive side, like we were talking before we got on here, when you look at these numbers, you're not going to get a return on your investment in any other portfolio other than real estate right now. And the big drawback from real estate was it's not liquid. I can't get my money back out of it. Well, right now you can pretty much liquidate your real estate in
Super
30 days,
quick. Yeah.
if that's what you want to do. No, you're not going to get your money overnight, possibly like some other portfolios, but waiting 30 days for a house I bought in South Lake for $1 million in 2019, and I have to wait 30 days to get my $500,000 return on that investment. I think
Yeah.
I'll wait 30 days.
You can hang tight for 30 days for sure.
And those are true numbers. If I bought $1 million house in South Lake in 2019, I could cash out $420,000 according to the data.
Yeah. Now the reality, right? The reality is that we may not see, like, from 2022 going forward, we may not see 20% appreciation. We may not even see 15% appreciation, right? But if we're, again, based on what the data is showing, we're going to see 5 to 10% appreciation, kind of going forward, right? Mortgage rates are going up. Home prices obviously are going to continue to go up. So that's going to slow down the demand a little bit. Not anywhere near we need it to in order for, inventory to come back. But let's say that appreciation slows to, 5 to 10%, even on the low side at 5%. If you purchased a $500,000 home and you put 10% down, right? Next year, your home appreciated by, let's call it 5%. Your 10% down investment just jumped up to 15%. And where else are you going to have a 50% return on your investment? Right.
Yeah.
So it's just, again, those are not made up numbers. Those are legitimate, legitimate numbers for sure.
I think also, as I was looking at these numbers, I did, I think it was Pulsenomics, which is a report that comes out. I think they had interviewed 100 leading economists, and their predictions were about a 9% increase this coming up year, and then decreasing to about 5, down to 3.5, between now and 2026, I believe it is how far they forecast out, 4 to 5 years. So like you said, that's a national average. Our DFW market's a little different. I truly believe it's going to trend higher than the national average by, I don't know, 2.5 to 5 points, maybe. At least, probably somewhere in the 3 to 4 range. So market's not going anywhere. Definitely looking at these numbers once again, you can see the average price of a home in Collin County, Dallas County. Fairview amazed me. I pointed that out to Amy. We were looking for homes out there 2 years ago in the 500,000. People were trying to buy $500,000 homes in Fairview, and you just you're not going to get that these days. So, all right, moving on. Let's get on to our real estate statistics. Much like last week. Oh man, this is so much like last week. Not a lot's changed, and I'm still sticking with the same story. It's because there's just not a lot of room for the market to move right now, in any direction. So Collin County, we're still holding our nearly 6% over list price this week, still 5 days on market, still got our half-month supply that we've had for the last several months. Looking at Denton County, we've got the 104, nearly 5% over list, 5 days on market, much like Collin County. Dallas County still sitting at 1.5% over list, 7 days on market, with about a 0.8 month supply. Our rural county of Grayson, which is not being so rural anymore, getting up there, you're paying very close to list in Grayson. Most likely, if you're getting a quality home, you're paying over list, most likely, probably more like 3% over. 11 days on market and a 1.3 month supply there. Tarrant County stayed the same once again, 102, 2.2 over list, 7 days on market, a little over half of a year's supply. Barker County trending like Grayson, nearly 100% of list, 17 days on market, 1.4 month supply. And I added Rockwall this week. They're looking at nearly 2.5% over list, 8 days on market, and 8.8 months supply. So those numbers not changed much. Don't really think there's a lot of room for that to change. A lot of it has to do with, as Chris was talking about earlier, our builders are really being conservative on the rate at which they are trying to put inventory on the ground. And also they are working on credit as well. So they have to get things done and sold before they can get more money to start building their next batch. And so with supply chain issues, it's slowing them down, which slows them down from completion, which slows them down from getting more money to start the next batch. So unfortunately, right now, just a lot of things are going into, I don't think we can point to one thing that's causing housing prices other than the lack of supply. And then, like I said, there's a million things that are causing the lack of supply. Some of it self-imposed by the builders. Some of it's imposed by their suppliers, some of it's imposed by their finances. So
Yeah. And then the other, obviously the other component too is, we're seeing a lot of builders have the financials, they have the supply, they can't get anybody to come work to build these dang houses.
yeah,
Right. So that, I mean, the workforce is the other, obviously is the other issue. So again, I mean, long term, right, over the next 5, 8, 10 years, like builders are not going to be overbuilding, right? One, it's a little unpredictable right now to manage costs, right? So they're not going to just be, selling a bunch of homes, getting all these under contract at a fixed amount, and then it ended up costing them 10, 15, 20%, over the course of that 12 months or 14 months or whatever it's taking to build, right? So those are all the, those are all the things, right? As we like to say that are just, I think, going back, 15 years or whatever, when builders were just building homes to build, that is definitely a thing of the past, right? They've learned from learned from their mistakes. And then and two, it's so difficult right now to, from a budget standpoint, man, I can't imagine what they're having to do. And on the flip side, right, we're seeing a lot of builders put in these, escalation clauses to say, hey, we have an idea, right? We have a theory of what it's going to cost. But if these prices, get jacked up over the next 12 months, that cost is going to you, Mr. Buyer, right? So those are just those things that you have to work.
yeah.
I can't express it. Working with the right people is key, right?
Oh yeah, definitely. Amy and I, when we're out with buyers, new construction, that's one of our first questions to the builder is about escalation clauses and how tight they are on their numbers as far as have they already bought these materials they're predicting this price on, things of that nature. There's some builders out there that won't give you a price until they have the cabinets in at this point, and then they give you your sales price. So you're really putting yourself out there going under contract like that. So as Chris and I talk, there's a ton of real estate news out there, news in quotes, because a lot of it is delayed by a week or two. Much of it is to build up some FOMO. Some of it's just strike fear to keep you watching. So Chris and I stay on top of the market. He's on top of the mortgage. I'm staying on top of the housing. To try to bring you the best information every single week.
Absolutely.
To help you make those informed decisions. Real estate is a good investment, definitely right now. Looking for some real estate myself. So want to reach out to Amy and I, it's 469-369-0873. We'll help you get that dream started by getting you in touch with Chris at 214-734-1531. So anyhow, appreciate you joining me today. I know you got family in town, so you had to break away from that. So
no worries, man. I appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
Appreciate you jumping on. And I guess we will see everyone next week.
Yeah. Y'all have a great weekend.
All right, man.
See ya.